the peaceful country life, away from the hustle and bustle of the city. It's your own little piece of paradise, where it's quiet and beautiful. Like you, more and more people are choosing to move closer to natural areas. This trend is creating an area of overlap, where natural, rural lands meet human development. This area of overlap is called the Wildland-Urban interface. People move to the interface for many reasons. Some seek privacy, while others desire a home amidst nature and wildlife.
Things that I would say are benefits for the Wildland-Urban interface folks that live out here. They could come out here and do nature walks, wildlife watches. We have black bear, we have alligators, indigo snakes, turtles, squirrels, those type things out here, and it's beautiful.
Many want land they can pass on to their children. Others are looking for more acreage and house for their money. But as more people move in, the integrity of the rural area changes. Without proper care, the beauty and natural resources of the Wildland-Urban interface may be threatened. It's important to remember that along with the benefits of life in the interface comes the responsibility to protect and care for it. During this video, we'll explore several communities located in the Wildland-Urban interface. We'll learn about the different challenges they face and how they are working to resolve these issues. We'll look at the interconnections among these issues. Lastly, we'll see how working together is enabling residents, natural resource professionals, and local leaders to develop solutions that benefit individuals, the community, and the environment. The Wildland-Urban interface is any area where increased human influence and land use changes are affecting natural resources and their management.
People are buying up bits of land and maybe even dividing up formerly large tracts of land and using them in different ways, where they might have once been ranch land or timber land. Now there are more housing developments and schools and roads and everything that goes along with urban development.
The look of the place, the country feel, the rural feel is what we think people love about this place and why they want to be part of it. And at the same time, more people, more pressure takes away from that. And if it's not done with good planning and great care, then it destroys the very thing people love about the area that they've moved to.
Living in the interface presents advantages and challenges. As some residents have realized, their presence in the interface affects their surroundings. However, you can make choices that will help conserve natural resources and improve conditions that affect the forest, its wildlife, and water quality. Choices that ultimately affect the quality of life in your community. We'll see how different situations require different approaches. White County is located in the scenic Blue Ridge Mountains of northern Georgia. It's home to a popular tourist destination, the Alpine village of Helen.
I think people want to live in White County for a number of reasons. One is the closeness of nature, so outdoor activities like hiking, canoeing, even gardening. Another is the laid-back atmosphere.
White County, like many interface communities, is growing fast. Its population increased more than 50% between 1990 and 2000. One consequence has been unplanned development.
We've got one area here in the county where they cleared the whole top of the mountain. And that's all you see is 3 houses sitting up there. I'd like to see the trees back instead of just seeing 3 houses stuck up there on the side of the mountain.
More people are building up in the mountainous areas of White County, and we're concerned as an agency that some of those houses may be at risk to forest fire. The Georgia Forestry Commission is stressing to residents who are building in the mountainous areas of White County that protecting their homes will be a shared responsibility. Other things include water quality. More recently, we've been more concerned and more involved with development issues and how to protect the water quality.
We're trying to educate people to be environmentally conscious, build with thought for the natural vegetation, wildlife corridors, and just encourage them to do things right, to maintain what they moved here for.
Landowners, local leaders, and natural resource professionals are working together to address many of these issues.
We're currently drafting a mountain protection plan, and we want input from the citizens. So what we're trying to do with mountain protection is say, listen, you can build, but we're going to limit the amount of land disturbing activities. We're going to limit the impervious surfaces and not have the environmental impacts of destroying our forests.
Another approach used in White County is the conservation subdivision. When building conservation subdivisions, instead of clearing and grading land completely, developers work with the natural features of the land, leaving it as undisturbed as possible. They concentrate homes in a smaller area and protect the natural environment.
You know, we could have cut up, 600 lots in here. Anything that can minimize your clearing and preserve your ambience is going to be good, and we've been very, very well received, and that's the most important thing.
The town of Flower Mound in northeast Texas is also planning ahead to reduce interface issues. Its citizens realized that rapid unplanned development was threatening their natural resources and could harm their quality of life. In 1999, they adopted a smart growth program. The program was designed to set development standards that would conserve natural resources, enhance quality of life, and protect the area's rural character.
Our community embraces smart growth as a balance between nature and man-made development, whereas another community may have a different vision for smart growth. I think what works is really getting to know your community and its needs, working with your council, working with your stakeholders, and incorporating that vision.
Like White County, Flower Mound promotes conservation subdivisions as a way to protect rural views and natural resources.
It's very close to nature. Most of the homes are landscaped, but they're in a setting that's very natural. I like that.
In southeastern Texas, the community of Bastrop is also working hard to address interface issues. With a dry climate, dense, flammable vegetation, and areas of steep terrain, Bastrop is extremely vulnerable to wildfire. Fire can improve forest health, but when people live in that forest, a wildfire must be considered an emergency. One of Bastrop's large interface subdivisions, Tahitian Village, has been especially at risk.
It is one of those things that wasn't on my uppermost thing on the list. It was the beauty of this place that attracted us, and it's like being in the country, only a few blocks away from getting to town. So that's what drew us here. It wasn't, we didn't give a second thought to fire.
We have lots and lots of roads that are slopes in excess of 15 degrees. We have long cul-de-sacs, poor turnarounds. Originally, the water supply to the subdivision was not planned large enough for fire protection. Street names that are not Texas names, rather Tahitian names. So all of those things came together to create some problem.
The name of a game in preventing a serious fire or preventing a wildland fire is speed. We need to get there and get the wet stuff on the red stuff.
Many changes have been made to help reduce the risk of wildfire in Tahitian Village and improve a number of other connected issues.
In a cooperative effort, we have increased water supply, we've made roadways better, we've increased the widths of roads, we've gotten defensible space accomplished in many parts of the subdivision.
Public education is also important. A group of concerned Bastrop citizens developed an organization called FireCap, which stands for Fire Citizens Advisory Panel. FireCap works with local emergency specialists and natural resource professionals to increase awareness about wildfire. The group also provides residents with action steps they can take to reduce their fire risk.
Just an amazing vehicle for information and a conduit to our public. And clearly the community is benefited by having FireCap on our side.
And we do have a lot of new neighbors that probably aren't as aware as those of us who have been here for a while and been through that program before.
And so maybe we need to do a little bit better job on educating them and their children about what happens in a forest situation when you're playing around with things you shouldn't be playing with.
Another interface issue in Bastrop involves wildlife. Bastrop State Park is the center of research and management for the endangered Houston toad. Through hard work and collaboration, resource professionals have established cooperative relationships with neighboring landowners.
All of our adjacent landowners are private landowners, and so there has to be a positive relationship with those landowners, because not only are they needing to know what we're doing inside the park, we need to know what their practices are as well.
A number of problems can occur in Wildland-Urban interface communities. It's important to realize that these interface issues are interconnected. For example, in fire-dependent forests, prescribed burning can be used by professionals to help improve forest health and enhance wildlife habitat. This can mean better views and recreational opportunities for you. However, severe wildfires that burn out of control temporarily destroy habitat, especially for ground-nesting birds and small mammals. Severe wildfires can also threaten your safety and property, thereby reducing your quality of life. Water shortages can increase the risk of wildfires and make them harder to control. As we saw in Bastrop, access to water is essential for fighting wildfires. Community development plans need to ensure such access. Problems with water quality and quantity can also affect wildlife, forest health, and your quality of life.
Resources are getting more scarce every year, and we all need to be concerned with water conservation.
And how communities develop is directly connected to natural resource issues in the interface. Poorly planned development can increase erosion, reduce water quality, increase risk of wildfire, increase traffic, and ruin the aesthetic qualities residents treasure. All of these factors can directly or indirectly impact your health, your safety, your property value, and your overall quality of life. Choices that people make in the interface may have unintended consequences. The good news is that careful planning and responsible actions can reduce several problems simultaneously. There are things all landowners can do to protect the health and beauty of the natural resources around them.
The more educated residents can get on wildland-urban interface issues, the better off we all are. And when people see their neighbors setting the example, I think they learn from that much more quickly than they do a resource professional coming in and saying, this is what you need to do.
Everybody can make a difference by doing just a little bit.
One easy technique is wildscaping.
Wildscaping is simply using at least 50% native plants. The more, the better. Providing food for wildlife, that is either in feeders or preferably in native plants. Water for wildlife that's appropriate, maybe a bird bath or a pond or a shallow area like that. And shelter. So things like nest boxes, allowing standing dead trees, we call those snags, where they don't pose a danger to human health or property.
Similarly, homeowners across the South can take a few simple precautions to guard against the danger from wildfire.
Basic steps somebody can do, especially with an existing home and existing landscaping, is go in and just prune like a juniper up so that you don't have the fuel growing all the way down to the ground. Using rock as a natural fire break is outstanding.